Hey all, my name is Phoenix, and unfortunately for the next 2 weeks you're stuck with me as a guest reviewer, because the usual five have... well, I think everyone else has stopped watching it. I've actually prepared some cards with my reviewing notes on, so I can stay focused and on point, but mainly because it references something that happened in the episode. Oh. Under the Lake is written by Toby Whithouse. No stranger to Doctor Who. You'll probably remember him for episodes such as School Reunion and a personal favourite of mine, The God Complex. Oh, and he also created the BBC Three drama Being Human. Something I really appreciated about this episode was the way that it felt like the Doctor and Clara were coming into the story, rather than the story being all about them. I always feel the Doctor Who's best when the Doctor and the Companion are strangers, coming into the world and interacting with it, and that's exactly what this episode did, right from the pre-titles, which started with the viewpoint of the underwater base miners, to the overall focus being on the Doctor and Clara having to work with them and form a team with them in order to tackle the threat. And the threat itself was really interesting. There was an actual mystery for you to sink your teeth into. We weren't just hyping up twists and shouting how impossible something is before pulling an explanation out of nowhere. Every reveal was set up with clues scattered throughout the episode so that you could start to piece things together yourself and really play along at home. Adding to the mystery was the fact that this time the Doctor didn't have all the answers, which made both him and the story more interesting. It forced him to go through a process of experimentation and discovery, and also placed him squarely within the tension and fear, rather than him being sort of above it, which has become the norm recently. Here he's an improvising scientist trying to survive just like everyone else, rather than some kind of omnipresent nutter. Speaking of the Doctor's ingenuity, let's talk sonic sunglasses. They're not actually that bad. I mean, they're used sparingly and effectively, and they actually make much more sense as something that scans information and then displays it to the Doctor and other people than a screwdriver. I kind of wish they had a different name, as I question their sonicness. Where does the sonic come out of? Guest characters. They were nice. They're a bit cliche. All your favourite base under siege buddies were here. The stern captain, the cowardly yet overridingly inquisitive scientist, the excitable rookie, and Mr. We've got to have money. We didn't really get a chance to dig into any of the characters and learn about them in any great depth. However, some really solid performances from the guest cast keep them really likeable and watchable, and they all have great chemistry together. And despite the lack of any great depth to them, I found myself wanting them to make it out alive. So kudos for that. Except of course Mr. We've Got to Have Money, who we all knew was guaranteed a swift death due to the fact that he had to have money. Clara was certainly in this episode. I'm not even sure the plot would have gone any differently if the Doctor had shown up on the base alone. There was that one awkward TARDIS scene that tried to give her a bit of character, but just sort of felt like it briefly derailed the story to me. She could of course develop in part 2, as there's real potential for her limits to be tested now that she's trapped on an underwater base, and not so sure that the Doctor's coming to save her this time. You know, as he's well dead and all that. But of course we'll have to see how that one pans out. Especially since the Doctor will probably end up saving the day anyway. This episode had a very interesting theme of communication. From the ghosts turning out to be nothing more than a spookified message sending system, to the character of Kaz having to use signing and a translator to speak to the rest of the characters, right down to the pretty brilliant gag of the Doctor struggling to communicate in a human way and having to rely on his little pre-prepared cards. That was good, I like that. This felt like a really nice change of pace for a show that recently has really only had the theme of who is a good man and who is a bad man. It was nice to have something a little less melodramatically moralistic. You can tell this is a good review using all the big words. The ghosts themselves had a wonderful design. Getting rid of the eyes was genius. It created a really unsettling, creepy, hollow, lack of soul look. And it also cut off the first form of communication we usually have when we look at someone, which is the eyes. See, it all ties back to the theme. Boom! Writing, son. Oh, I should have stuck to the guard. I wouldn't say I found them exactly scary, but the way they had to rely on the environment of the mining base to polish off the crew led to some pretty nasty moments. When I thought we were going to see someone beaten to death with a spanner, I definitely cringed a bit. Speaking of the base, didn't it look a bit, well, familiar? I do wonder if this story was slightly badly placed within the series, as we've literally just come from a Metal Corridor based episode. I mean, obviously this is a totally different place because it's got a green tint, so obviously it's underwater, but I wouldn't hold it against anyone tuning in slightly late to wonder why the Dalek city was now at the bottom of the ocean. Even the, like, scanner displays, like the maps, they were the same, right? I'm not imagining that. Woohoo, that cliffhanger though. Blimey. Not only does it really pull you in for the next episode, but it also questions everything you've learnt so far. Surely the ghosts can't be ghosts, because, well, Doctor Who can't be dead. Plus the notion of cutting between two timelines and the possibility of some cause and effect shenanigans next week. It's very exciting. Also, can I just say how glad I am two-parters are back. Oh, longer stories with cliffhangers, how I have missed you! All in all, Under the Lake is probably one of my favourite Doctor Who's for a good long while. It's an engaging and tense ghost mystery, with enough layers of things going on to make it really rewatchable. Let us know what you thought of the episode down in the comments, point down, and you can also vote on the FiveWF website. Okay, bye.
Just think, this time last year, BBC Doctor Who's Twitter account announced its new upcoming young adult spin-off show, Class.